I walked in on my wife. What I did next changed everything. The moment I saw them, time felt like it stopped. Anger, shock, disbelief, it all hit at once. But instead of reacting, I paused. I knew that whatever I did next would define everything that followed. So I made a choice that no one expected. I didn't create a scene. I didn't say a word. And somehow, that decision changed the entire outcome in ways they never saw coming. I'm 34, male, the kind of guy who works 60-hour weeks, drives a pickup that's 3 years past its prime, and still thinks a good weekend is fixing something around the house. I built a small construction business from scratch at 27, renovated my own house over 2 years, and had what I genuinely believed was a solid 7-year marriage. We were the boring couple other couples looked at like we had it figured out. It was a Tuesday. A job site flooded, so we shut down early. My truck was quiet pulling into the driveway. I noticed my best friend's car parked down the street. Not directly in front of our house, just close enough. We'd been friends since college. 12 years. He had a spare key because I trusted him like a brother. I walked in, set my boots by the mat like I always do, and heard something upstairs that made my whole body go cold. I stood at the bottom of the stairs for what felt like 5 minutes. My brain was doing that thing where it tries to explain away what you already know. Maybe they're watching TV. Maybe she's showing him the new bathroom. Maybe. I walked up slowly. The bedroom door was half open. I stood in the doorway. I saw exactly what I knew I'd see. And here's the thing, I didn't say a word. I didn't throw anything. I didn't yell. I took one long look, stepped back, walked downstairs, put my boots back on, and left. Got in my truck and drove to a parking lot 2 miles away and just sat there. That silence was the most important decision I ever made. Because sitting in that parking lot, something shifted in me. The shock turned into something colder. Something calculated. I'd spent 7 years building a life with someone I thought I knew. And in about 30 seconds, I understood that everything I thought I knew was a story she'd been writing while I was at work. I drove to a different friend's place, someone she barely knew, and told him what happened. He handed me a beer and said 3 words that changed everything. Call a lawyer first. I called one the next morning. The attorney I found specialized in divorce and asset protection. He explained that Pennsylvania is an equitable distribution state, meaning marital assets get divided fairly, not necessarily 50-50, depending on several factors including contribution and conduct. He told me to do nothing to alert my wife, behave completely normally, and start documenting everything. So that's what I did. I went home that evening. My wife was making dinner like it was any other Tuesday. My best friend was, of course, nowhere around. She kissed me on the cheek, asked about the job site. I answered everything like a man who had absolutely no idea his marriage was already over. I was building a case. Over the next 3 weeks, I quietly worked with my attorney to get a full accounting of our joint finances. That's when things got deeply interesting. My attorney flagged unusual transfers. Money moving from our joint account into an account I didn't recognize. Not huge chunks, but steady. Over 14 months, nearly $47,000 had been quietly drained out. I hired a forensic accountant through my attorney's referral. 2 weeks later, she came back with a full report. The money was going into an LLC, registered 8 months ago. And one of the LLC's registered members? My best friend. This wasn't just an affair. This was a partnership. They hadn't just been sleeping together, they had been planning. My wife handled our personal finances and knew every account detail. She'd seen client contracts I sometimes brought home. She was feeding information and money to him while he sat at my kitchen table eating food I paid for. I brought everything to my attorney. He looked over the forensic accountant's report and said, "This changes the case significantly. The transfers could constitute marital waste, meaning the court could hold her accountable for dissipating marital assets. Depending on what the LLC was doing with that money, there could be civil liability, possibly criminal exposure." He told me to sit tight. Don't tip her off. Let him file. She didn't see it coming. Nobody ever does when the quiet one finally moves. She got served on a Thursday morning while I was at a job site. My attorney timed it deliberately. I was nowhere near the house. The papers included the divorce filing, a formal demand letter regarding the financial transfers, and noticed that a forensic accountant's report had been submitted to the court. She called me 12 times in 40 minutes. I let every single one go to voicemail. Then the entitled phase started, and I was not prepared for how far she would go. First, she called my mother. told her I had abandoned her and was having some kind of breakdown. My mother, who had spent 6 Thanksgivings with her family, called me in tears. I sat my mom down calmly and walked her through everything: the affair, the transfers, the LLC. The silence on the phone afterward was heavy. But my mom said, "Handle your business," and didn't take another one of her calls. Then my wife tried a different angle. She reached out to my business partner, a silent investor who holds 30%, and implied I was about to make reckless decisions that could tank the company. She told him she was concerned about my mental state. She was actively trying to destabilize my professional relationships to create leverage in the divorce. My partner called me directly. I forwarded him the forensic accountant's report. He went quiet, then said, "She's trying to use our business relationship against you." He called her back and told her to communicate only through her attorney. She then hired an aggressive divorce attorney who sent a letter claiming I had been emotionally abusive throughout the marriage and that she was entitled to significant spousal support and half the business valuation. The letter was loaded with phrases like hostile home environment and financial control. It was a narrative built to put me on the defensive. My attorney read through it and said flatly, "They're setting up a story. We have the evidence. That's the only thing that matters." Then came her final play, and this one almost worked. She reached out to my best friend's wife. He was married. His wife had no idea. What my wife told her wasn't the truth. She spun a version where I had been the one pursuing her, that she was the victim, and that my best friend had only been comforting her. She needed his wife angry at me instead of at him. She needed her ally protected. The problem? His wife came to me directly. She'd always been sharper than anyone gave her credit for. The story felt wrong to her, so instead of accepting it, she started asking questions and came to me with everything my wife had said. I sat with her and told her the full truth. The affair, the forensic accountant's findings, my best friend's role in the LLC. She went home and confronted him. He confirmed all of it. She filed for divorce within the week. And because she was now furious and had access to their joint finances, her attorney subpoenaed the LLC records directly. What came back was more than I expected. The LLC had also received a $15,000 transfer from my best friend's personal marital account, money his wife had never known about. Her attorney filed a marital waste claim against him almost identical to mine against my wife. Now they were both in divorce proceedings. Simultaneously, with interconnected financial evidence pointing at both of them. Here's where the consequences really landed. In Pennsylvania, when marital waste is established, the court can credit the innocent spouse for the amount that was dissipated. My attorney documented every dollar. The $47,000 in transfers, the LLC structure, the business information that had been passed along. The forensic accountant filed an expert testimony report. My wife's attorney pushed back hard, but the paper trail was airtight. The court ruled in my favor on the marital waste claim. The full $47,000 was credited to my side of the asset distribution. Combined with my attorney's argument about the nature and source of my business, built entirely before and through my individual labor, with zero financial contribution from my wife, the business valuation was handled carefully. She received a significantly smaller share than her attorney had demanded, and zero spousal support given the documented circumstances of the breakdown. The house went to me. I'd renovated it with my own hands and held the mortgage. The court agreed it was primarily a result of my individual effort and investment. She walked away with considerably less than she and my best friend had planned. Not nothing. Equitable distribution doesn't work that way. But nowhere close to what they had been quietly building toward for over a year. As for the LLC itself, because the forensic accountant's report showed it had been funded using money from both their marital accounts without either spouse's knowledge, both divorce attorneys went after it in their respective cases. The LLC had minimal operating revenue and had functioned primarily as a holding vehicle. It was effectively dissolved through the legal proceedings, and the assets were clawed back into the marital estates. The client information my wife had passed along, contact details, contract terms. My attorney sent a cease and desist to the LLC before it dissolved. No client was ever successfully poached because the whole operation collapsed before it launched. But the attempt was fully documented, and I used every piece of it. My best friend lost his marriage, his friendship with me, and the business he'd spent a year quietly building toward. His wife took their house, her name was primary on the deed, and the majority of their joint savings. Last I heard, he was renting an apartment and had lost most of our mutual friends, who sided with his wife and me once the full story came out. My wife relocated after the divorce finalized. The whole contested process, including the financial disputes, took about 14 months from filing to final decree, standard for that kind of case in Pennsylvania. The day everything was signed, she sent me one text. "I hope you're happy." I didn't respond. The business is doing better than it ever has. My partner and I expanded into 2 new counties this year. I've got a German Shepherd now, and weekends that belong entirely to me. She thought my silence the day I walked in meant weakness. She thought because I didn't yell, didn't break things, didn't make a scene, she had more runway to maneuver. Both of them underestimated what a man who goes cold and quiet is actually capable of. Don't mistake stillness for surrender. If you're navigating something like this, call a lawyer before you say a single word to anyone involved. Document everything, and never let them see you coming. If this story hit somewhere real, subscribe, because clearly you need someone in your corner who understands how the quiet ones actually play the game.